Hey everyone, it's Leanne here. Welcome to another video on my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to show you how I created this thank you card for fall, and it's using the Thanks a Bushel stamp set from Lawn Fawn. So I'm going to use two die cut circles. The smaller one will cut the window frame for my card, and then the larger one I will cut a piece of watercolor paper out of, and that will provide the backing for that window, that smaller window. So to begin, I'm finding the center of my cardstock, and this is an A2 card size. So it's 5.5 by 4 1/4. And once I have this center, I put my template down and I'm just going to tack that in place with Post-it tape. I've run this through my die cutting machine and I'm just popping that out. I'll keep that center piece for another project. And then I have the window created for my card base. I have this watercolor paper too that I used cut out from the larger circle die, and I'm going to do some blending with that. So with the distress inks, I have antique linen, carved pumpkin, candied apple, and seedless preserves. So I'm going to start with my lightest color first, and I'm using my circle stamp tool blender. And so I'm just going to cover 1/4 of the background, and I'm blending in small light circles and just making sure that that ink is spread around really good and has a nice even blend to it. And then I'm going in with the second color, so this is the carved pumpkin, and I'm going to blend it 1/4 of the way up as well, but making sure it also overlaps the previous color and has enough that it will give an overlap to the next color, which is candied apple here. So doing the same technique as the previous colors, I'm just going to blend this in 1/4 of the way, but also making sure it blends into the previous color and leaves enough room to blend into the next color. And when you do this, it creates a really nice, beautiful gradient, and you don't really see any lines where those colors change. I flipped this around to do the other side, and I've just got a piece of paper over it. These are water-soluble inks, or water-based inks, so they do stay wet a little while, and I didn't want to have any transfer or any fingerprints in my ink, so it was nice just to put that little piece of paper to hold it down. So I'm going back with my antique linen just to blend out that first two colors to make sure that they're nice and smooth. And then the prettiest color here is the seedless preserves, and it just gives a nice topping to my sky. And so I'm coming in and doing my last 1/4 and blending that in and blending it into the candied apple color. And then the technique too with any skylines, you want to make sure that your lightest color is at the base, and then you go up to darker colors. And so that's what I'm doing here. Also, as a tip, I have the little foam discs, and I keep those in the bottom of my distress ink pads, so I always have a color for each ink color. So now I'm going to use the stamp set here to stamp out the sentiment. So I'm using VersaFine ink because I do want to emboss this. Because it's fall, I want it to have a real fall theme, so I'm going to do it in gold embossing. And I think that's a nice complement to the fall colors. So I'm just stamping this in place, and then I'm going to bring that in. I'm putting a piece of folded paper underneath. I want to catch my embossing powder. So this is my gold embossing powder. I'm going to just dump a whole bunch. This is always the fun part. Just dump a whole bunch onto the ink. And I'm going to tap it around with the metal part of my paintbrush just to make sure that everything comes off the page that isn't supposed to stick, and then just touch up any areas with my brush that might have got caught on the way. So I've embossed this, and you can see the sheen there. It's really pretty. I love this. So now I'm going to come in and do some leaves as well. So I'm going to use the Jump for Joy stamp set, and this is also new from Lawn Fawn for the fall 2016 release. And I'll put links in the description below if you guys want to check those out. So I'm using the large leaf and the small leaf, and I'm just doing a variance of scattered leaves falling down around the outside of the frame. And again, using that same gold embossing powder, I'm just going to spread that all over and make sure it's all tapped off the card. And any parts that get sticky or missed, I just come in with my paintbrush, my dry paintbrush, and just lightly brush those off. So I've embossed that side, and I'm going to do the other side. So I'm doing the same technique, just using the big and little leaf and scattering them where I think there's empty spaces and where it would look nice to have those leaves falling down. I also put a piece of paper under my work because I wanted to have some leaves coming out of the top of the frame, breaking the frame, so it felt like they were coming from higher above. I also, here when I take the embossing powder off, I swish it around a little bit just to make sure that it hits all those wet ink spots from my stamp so that I get a nice, clean, even emboss. And I use a heat gun to emboss. I've done it off camera, but it's pretty easy to use. You just want to make sure that your heat gun is very hot when you take it to your paper, and then it will emboss in no time. It's pretty quick and easy to do. So I just tested out my scene there, and I thought everything was looking good so far. So I'm going to tack down my blended piece with some frog tape just to keep that in position while I put my frame together. So I'm using my foam tape, or sorry, my tape roller, just my regular tape roller, and I'm going around the edge and adding that adhesion so that that can stick to the blended background. I've got that all lined up, and I'm just pushing that into place. So now I'm ready to do my bushel of apples. And I'm going to stamp that with the same stamp pad as before, the VersaFine ink, because I do want to emboss this as well with the gold powder so it matches. In this stamp set comes a variety of little faces, and I love faces on stamps. If you've watched my videos, I probably said this 100 times, but I think they're so cute. So I had a lot of fun picking out the different faces I wanted to put on my apples, and that's my bushel of thanks. They're all very thankful apples. So I have embossed this as well in gold. And I've decided to color this in with pencil crayons. I've been working a lot with pencil crayons, and I really like that medium, so I decided to try something different and go with the pencil crayons. The other reason I went with them too is when I tried the Copic markers, I found that they were just a little too dark, and the faces blended into the dark color of the Copics, and I really wanted them to shine. So I thought that this worked better because the pencil crayons were lighter. So to start, I've colored them all with a base of yellow. And I want yellow to be my highlight on all the colors, so I colored it from the top down and faded out towards the bottom. I'm going to do 2 colors of apples. I'm going to do some red ones, and then I'm going to do some green ones, just to create some variety in my bushel. So once I had everything colored with the base highlight of yellow, I'm coming in on my red apples, and I started with a pink just to neutralize that yellow a little bit and add a little interest to that color layering. And so I came in with the pink and went over the yellow, but not quite to the top, just blended out just before I reached the top of the yellow. And then I came in with my red and made the bottom really dark where would be the shadow. And then just blended up into that open area of the yellow. Now I'm creating my green apples, and I'm going to do these the exact same way. So I've done the yellow already. I'm coming in with sort of a greenish, or a yellowy green, sort of an emerald though too. And I'm doing a base over the yellow to create a little bit of the layering. And then I'm coming in with a dark green to really intensify the shadows. And the darker color I'm doing from the bottom up, and probably gradiating that out about 2/3 of the way up the apple. And then I'm going to color the little leaves. I'm doing a base color of green, and then I'm coming in with a dark green just to make them darker towards the stem, so creating the shadow. To color the basket, I'm going to do the bands of the basket a little bit lighter and sort of gold. I've used some yellow on those and some brown, and then came in with some darker brown on the sides for the shadows. And then for the planks on my basket, I did brown as well, but more of a darker brown tone. So I'm ready to put this into place on my card. So I'm going to use foam tape. I love foam tape. It adds a nice little dimension and pop, and it will help elevate my focal point off the scene. So I've just attached this to the end of my X-Acto knife so I can find the position. And then once I've eyeballed that and found the center and the placement's all good and set, and I'm happy with that, I'm going to push that down into place. And now it's time to stick the card to my card base. So I'm using my tape roller and just lining the perimeter and then putting an X. Now to center the card and the base together, I like to turn them upside down and use them on the folded end, lining them up to the bottom of the desk, and then using the edges of my hands to make sure that they're centered with each other, just very basic, and then pushing them down into place. This is a quick and easy method, and it's always been fail-safe for me. So there you have it. This is my Thanks a Bushel Thank You Fall card from Lawn Fawn, with the stamps from Lawn Fawn. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe so you're notified the next time I post a video. Thanks so much for watching.